What's going on, guys? My name is Jerry Rodriguez, aka JR Creates. I am a Christian, I am a believer, and I'm an artist. And one of the things that I try to do is I try to bring thought-provoking work to you. But not just thought-provoking, transparent, vulnerable, and authentic thought-provoking work. So what I mean by that is artwork that comes from my heart, that speaks to me first. I'm not trying to point the finger at somebody. I'm genuinely saying, hey, this is what I struggle with. Maybe you could relate. Maybe these pieces can be something that encourages you, inspires you to continue to walk in your walk of faith, or to see God, or to seek God, or to believe in God. My hope is to bring light onto maybe some questions we have, light onto the struggles that we go through, light in darkness. And this is Colorweh, the restart of Colorweh. We did start it about 2 years ago, my best friend and I from college, Ken Alvarado. We started this ministry 2 years ago, and during the pandemic pretty much, or right before it, I think it was. And then life kind of got out of hand. 2020 brought a lot of challenges to everybody, and this ministry kind of took the back seat. But now, 2 years later, I'm excited to be back. So thank you for everybody who has been waiting and been patiently waiting. I'm excited to bring forth what I believe God has been doing in my heart, and different ideas that have been coming to my mind, and just everything. So thank you, guys. All right, I want to give you some backstory as to how Colorweh started. So about 5-6 years ago, I did a series called Is He Alive? And I started this series right after Easter. It was the first day after Easter, and we just celebrated Resurrection Sunday. But I wanted to ask everybody, is He alive? So genuinely in our hearts, do we believe that He is alive? And the reason I did that was because I was struggling with my own faith, with my own heart. Not that I didn't believe He was alive. I definitely wholeheartedly believe it. But did I walk it out was the big question. Did I genuinely walk that out? And that's what all these paintings, that's what all these pieces, at the end of the day, that's what they do. They come forth and bring the question, are we genuinely walking this out? And so I did a series of 30 paintings in 30 days, one painting per day, plus a blog post that explained the painting. And that was one of the most challenging and transformative times of my life. It changed everything about me, and it made me realize I have a passion, I have a huge desire to continue to share this ministry with people, with you guys, with the world. And that's where my heart beats on a constant basis. And I think that in the past, I've made excuses about not being able to do it, not having the resources, not doing this and that. And to be honest, those were just excuses. And I know that this is a season now where it's been a long time coming, maybe a little too long in my opinion. And I should have done this a long time ago. But God's timing, I got to trust God's timing. And even in my delayed obedience, which is still technically disobedience, I still trust His timing. I believe that this is the time that is needed now more than ever. And so I started with that series, Is He Alive? And that series I thought was going to be very controversial and very challenging for people to accept. What I thought was, I was pointing at the church. I was like, yo, this is what's wrong with the church, blah, blah, blah. And then by the end of the series, I realized, well, actually by the middle of it, I realized that this wasn't about the church. This was about me. And that's where things got really challenging, because it started to expose certain areas in my life that I was not aware of. It started to make me vulnerable. It started to make all my dirt come out, and that was a scary place, because you don't always think about your past and the things that you've done and how they come back, how they can come back and be brought to light. And so that was tough. That was a real tough season. But as I continued to create these paintings and these pieces, I was getting more and more responses from people about the work and everything that was going on. And so that at the same time was God showing me how much this conversation, these pieces, this series was needed, because it needs to be told to the world. People, there are so many people in similar shoes, so many people going through the same things, so many people asking the same questions, and sometimes we don't know how to communicate it, but maybe I can express it through art. And that was the first time I ever felt like my world finally came full circle, and I had these two worlds finally collide, which was art and church finally come together and make sense. You know, not just like a cute video for for a church service or for a worship service or something like that, but actually like something deep, something profound, something that had weight to it. Then fast forward to 2020, I called up my best friend and I said, hey, I want to get this ministry going. I can't do it on my own. Will you help me out? And he was like, yeah, I'm down. And so we were working on it together, and we were putting out a lot of content. It was great. We were moving quickly, which was a bit too fast. It ended up being something that was a little overwhelming. We didn't pace ourselves correctly. And then with everything else happening in 2020, it just kind of slowed down, and we put it on pause. And on top of that, my artwork, my other artwork, aside from this series or this style, began to move forward. I started getting a lot of recognition online, videos hitting millions and millions of views, and I was getting I got a shout out from BuzzFeed, which was really cool. And I decided to put Colorweh on pause and focus on that. I was like, let me just get these commissions going. Let me focus on that for a little bit and come back to Colorweh. Well, that pause ended up being 2 years, and I kept making excuses about coming back and doing it, and I'm like, well, I want to do it right, I want to do this, and I just never came back, and to the point now where I'm just like, you know what, I need to do this. Actually thinking about the painting behind me, Follow Me, which I will talk about in the next video. This painting holds so much conviction in my heart about what I'm doing, and am I genuinely following him in the footsteps that he's called me to. So a lot of me just coming back to it, I'm like, you know what, I got to do this, because I keep having this. It's a knock on my heart that just keeps knocking and nonstop, and I know it's God tugging my heart towards this ministry. And so I've postponed it too long, and I'm like, all right, we got to do it. So here we are again, restarting Colorweh. And I believe that God will use this at least to talk to and to speak to and to touch one other person. But like I said, I made a lot of excuses coming here, and I finally, decided to set that aside, and I'm in the process of laying things down, literally laying things down, and following him wholeheartedly. The last thing I wanted to do with this video is talk about the name Colorweh. And initially, Colorweh, my friend Ken was the one that brought it up. He said, what about Colorweh? And it's Colorweh is obviously the color combination on a sneaker, which I think is super dope, because a sneaker represents relevancy to our culture today, right? Like, everybody rocks the sneakers, but then there's sneakerheads too. And so there's this cool concept of like becoming a sneakerhead, but with colorhead, and like really Colorweh, and really diving into what is what the message is here and what God is doing. And so I think that's a cool concept. But also, so the word color is let me actually read it to you the way it is defined. It is defined as, when an object is hit with light, the property of the object projects sensations to our eyes, creating what we call color, which is amazing. When the object is hit with light, it creates sensation, projects sensations, which is such a fun word, because a sensation is something that just captures you, right? That you become, you're almost obsessed with. Like, it's just consuming, which I think is awesome. And so that light is something we need in order to see color. And Jesus describes himself as light in John 14:6. So not only does light remove darkness, right? When that light it hits, it projects that color, projects that sensation of color that we receive. And so that's such an amazing concept to me, because God, Jesus being the light projecting on our lives, allows those colors to be seen, that sensation to be seen. So we should be these vibrant testimonies of God throughout the world. And so that's why the word color is in there. Now, way, of course, is the way we spell it. Well, there's the way Colorweh, which is the word of the combination of the sneaker. But then way, we spelled it like Yahweh, which is Yahweh is one of the sacred names, one of the most sacred names of God, if not the most. And many times in the Old Testament, it was left blank because it was so sacred they didn't write it. We want to make Colorweh and Yahweh always the focal point, like it's always pointing back to God. That's what Colorweh in essence is. And then the last part of the name is the fact that it comes from the scripture John 14:6, where I am the way and the truth and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. I am the way, so Colorweh also being that description in there. Jesus describes himself, I am the way, and we say Colorweh, so Colorweh, that being two things. Like we talked about, Jesus describes himself as the light, so him being the color in our life, the way in our life in that sense, and then also the colorway of POC, of person of color. Jesus was somebody who was born in the Middle East, and therefore his skin complexion was most likely a little closer to mine, or darker, or something like that. And so to have that understanding as we continue to build this ministry is key. Now moving into the logo. So the logo on Colorweh has arrows. Arrows are a symbol of love, power, and direction. And so those things are always being incorporated into our brand, into our ministry. And then the last thing with the logo is there's actually this really cool puzzle where there's 9 dots in the form of a square. And you have to connect all 9 dots with 4 lines without lifting your pencil. And the only hint you're given in this game is think outside the box. So you have to think outside the box in order to do it. And you literally have to go outside the box to actually make the 4 lines connect all 9 dots. And the shape that it creates at the end of the day ends up being an arrow. And so that's another reason why we use arrows in the logo, because it symbolizes thinking outside the box because of this game. And so everything we do, I want to think outside the box. I want to bring something that's out of the norm, So that's Colorweh in a nutshell, and we're hoping that you guys will join us in this journey. There's so many things that I want to bring to the table, and I'm excited to show you, to paint, to create, to express. So please subscribe, like, comment, share, and let's get going on this journey. And there's always ways for you to support us financially as well. So if that's something that you would like to do, definitely let me know. We can work something out. And but I definitely look forward to building this with you. Thank you.